What's up, people? So, here's an update on the parts that I stripped apart from the Blackhawk Titan Hydration Pack in order to fashion some Alice shoulder straps and some other sternum straps. Now, I went to the tailors for the sternum straps, and I had the tailor. These initially were just strips of webbing from the inside of the pack, which I severed, I cut, and then I had to source these tri-glides that then have this little opening here, this little slot here to attach the sternum strap with. And these were €2.50 a piece, shipped. They were €2. I got 7 of them plus shipping, ended up coming down to €2.50 a piece. So that's already €5 per sternum strap. But not in the case of the ones for the shoulder straps here. They already had one on, so just €2.50 for this one. But then the tailoring cost me about €10 for all of these, plus a couple more straps that I had fashioned, that just some straps with some ladder locks. But this was the core, of the project for the sternum straps, which I delegated to the tailor, and I got a really good price. I got €10 for a lot of different little jobs. I actually realized, for example, that having these sewn on, initially I wasn't too happy because I asked to replicate this exact design as per the Blackhawk sternum strap. As you can see, it's nicely folded over like so, whereas they went a little bit more simplistic with just just something like that. But for the price that I paid, I figured it was acceptable. I just didn't want to argue. And ultimately, I realized, for example, I'm going to have to unstitch half of these because one end is just simply too long. Even if you cinch the sternum strap to the max, it's still a little bit too long. So instead, what I'm going to have to do, as I mentioned, I'm going to have to unstitch one side of these and simply fasten it with a small tri-glide that will fit this kind of webbing. So slightly shorter than, slightly slimmer than standard 1-inch webbing. Yeah, that's for that. And that, all in all, came out really well. I'm really happy with the overall result, even though I'm going to have to, obviously fiddle with it some more. But I wanted to draw you... Oh, right, and then I asked for the... also from the tailors, for the quick release straps, to have... One of them had to have the Velcro keeper sewn on because it had been severed, so I had to source the Velcro keeper from elsewhere. Had to dye it, and then as it was literally one fold too short, I simply folded once over, and then this one I simply I just wrapped without folding anything. And that in itself is simply just to keep this from sliding out more than anything else, because the straps that I cut also from the pack, as you can see, there's still the slant from when I cut it at an angle. The thing is, these are already pretty short, but now that I've added this extra loop, which also probably could have been a little bit shorter, I suppose. Hopefully it won't make too much of a difference, but the thing is, we're pushing the limit because they're pretty short straps. So they're going to have to be maxed out, and then even then, I haven't tested this out yet on on an Alice pack, including the shoulder straps. So we're gonna have to see if this turned out well. Turned out well enough. But the stitching on this as well is actually really nice, pretty secure like that, and it gives me. I gave her the instruction of I need just enough a loop to go through the or rather for the buckle to go through, the middle buckle, so that I can strap it to the Alice frame. So that's for that. And as I mentioned, these two plus that plus an extra couple of straps, all €10. Now, that was from the tailor. From the shoemakers, I had a bit of a problem. Now, the shoemaker, most notably, recently has an assistant or so. His wife, his companion. I don't really know. But initially, it was either him or his daughter that would do all my little jobs, and especially his daughter was quite good at it. She always understood what I needed, and always, was happy with the end result. And but unfortunately, his daughter moved out, and she set up her own business elsewhere, quite far from here. And I've had a bit of a run-in with the shoemaker's wife this morning when I went to collect this stuff again, these shoulder straps again. Most notably, in the previous episode, if you check, she had stitched an X all across here. Now, I asked her, I told her, this isn't exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for a U. That's all I wanted. It was just stitching along the sides, on the top, for these two straps. Sorry, guys, this is getting out of focus. For these two straps to be, sewn together, and then, just reinforced on the sides here. And when I went to collect it, last time when I went back and told her for the third time what I needed done, she kept saying, no, I asked for the X, etc., etc. But she was quite forthcoming. She just decided, oh, well, I even asked her, do you want me to do the unstitching and then just give you back the shoulder straps? And she's like, oh, no, otherwise you might, unstitch too much or whatever. And I told her I'm probably going to unstitch everything. And she's like, oh, no, don't do that. Just give them to me and I'll sort it out. I even asked her, do you want me to pay, a difference in the price, just an extra? And she just said, no, don't worry. Let me just sort it out. And so I was like, very kind of you. Thank you so much. And so I left. And then when I went to collect them, she was like, oh, it's going to be €8. And I was like, what do you mean €8? I already paid €8. In fact, 8 to 10. I'm not sure entirely if I paid 8 to 10 euros for this mod, because she took, or rather, her husband took the receipt last time when I went to collect all the jobs that I had asked for. I had actually asked for the handle, like a strip of webbing, of Alice webbing, to be sewn on 2 medium Alice packs, a mod which in the past with the shoemaker and his daughter always cost me €6, whereas last time she charged me 8. So already that I was already like, oof, it's getting a bit expensive here for just a handle, for just a basic tailoring. But whatever, I paid the money. I figured, whatever, these are the prices now, inflation, what have you. Just pay it and don't be a cheapskate. But then, as I mentioned, I came today to collect these shoulder pads, and she wanted to charge me €8. And I didn't even open my mouth, and she just started venting at me and having a go at me about, oh, I had to do everything again because I'm stitching the X. Then the whole thing came apart, and I just wanted to say, well, yeah, exactly. That was to be expected. That's why I was telling you. And then she said, oh, well, basically, I'm not here just doing work for free, yada, yada, yada. She just kept venting and yelling and, just having a go at me. Ultimately, basically, it's just because she, to boil it down, she was frustrated that she had to redo the whole work over again. So she wanted to charge me, once more. And I told her, well, that wasn't that's why should I pay again for something that I asked you and that I repeated once again, because I came on the day that these were supposed to be ready, and she actually told me, oh, I forgot what you wanted done. Please remind me. So I specified again. I just need a U. 1, 2, 3. And she just kept having it, wanted to have it her way and saying, no, this isn't what I asked. I asked for the X, and I was like, no, I'm sorry. I told you once, and then I told you twice just before you were supposed to do this. So you can't really be blaming that on me. Anyway, moral of the story is we had a falling out, and I kept telling her, listen, I'll pay a difference, and I was ready to pay up to €4, half the price she was asking for the effort that she put into it. But I definitely didn't want to pay €8. And at one point, I was almost about to pay the €8 just to shut her up and be like, keep your damn money, and but then she just started having a rant, just having a go at me. I'm never accepting these kind of jobs anymore. I don't care if I lose customers. So I figured, hey, if that's your mentality and you keep treating me like crap and blaming me for your shortcomings because you couldn't remember what I had asked, and even though this was such a simple job, and and she really didn't like the fact that I pointed it out, and that I said that I told her twice what I wanted done, and then that I had to come and tell her a third time. Um, she just basically didn't want to. At first she was really firm on her stance, like, oh, you got to pay me, whatever. This isn't. I don't do work for free. The hours and time that goes into this and whatever, and the craftsmanship. And I was like, yeah, I understand, but I've already paid for this job, so why should I pay it again? And especially for something that, it wasn't my fault, but she was convinced it was. So moral of the story is sometimes you just can't argue with people, I mean, you can argue, but you just can't reason with them, because they're going to see, their way. And obviously I wanted to share my side of the story, because there's you know I have ideas and I outsource these jobs, and not always am I happy with the end result. With the tailors, for example, I wasn't 100% happy, but at the end of the day I was satisfactory. And for the price that she gave me, it was definitely well worth the money. I didn't really feel like being a perfectionist and being too picky, because in the past I've done that as well. Like I've come back to her, I think 3 times in the past for jobs that she messed up, and each time I'd explain it to her again and she'd mess it up again, but she would fix it, or at least try to, for free. So I went back to her, just because she's a nice person. She understands that maybe she doesn't really know what she's doing, but she tries, and to understand what the project is that I'm trying to that I'm trying to make happen. But on the other hand, this woman, I was about to say this bitch, but really, yeah, she is a bitch, like a total bitch. And she was I could already sense the friction the first time around, but then when I talked to her the second time, that she wasn't happy with, um, or rather the third time, I could sense that she wasn't too pleased, but at the same time, she looked really forthcoming, and she told me, "Don't worry about it." But then, obviously, when I went to collect it today, everything changed literally from white to black in a second, and she was just unhappy that she had to do the job over again. That's my take on it, and that's why she wanted to charge me €8. Ultimately, I didn't pay the €8, because she just decided, as I mentioned, she was just like very, very dismissive and just like, oh, I'm never accepting these jobs again. I don't, it's not going to affect me if I lose one or two customers. And, these kind of sentences already tell me that you've already made up your mind. You just don't want to have to deal with me ever again. And you don't want to accept the fact that you're wrong and that I came to you and told you 3 times what I needed to be done, twice already, and you still screwed it up. And then I told you a third time, and she was just, you know, she just wasn't budging. She just kept saying, no, this isn't what I asked. And I was like, why would I have asked you something that I don't need? And in fact, the third time around, when I explained to her why I needed this, without the stitching, she even said, oh, what's the difference? I'm like, well, there is a difference because I can't use it then, in order to feed the straps through. So once again, and I ultimately didn't even have the time to put forth all the reasons why she was definitely in the wrong, because she just wasn't hearing it. But the purpose of this video is just to let you guys know that not always you get what you expect. And sometimes, you just have to battle with people in order to get, in order to get, in order to get your way. But it's not about getting my way or whatever. It's just about, I'm sorry, madam, but I've already paid for the service. If you want, I'll pay. And I kept offering till the end. If you want, I'll pay a difference, but give me an honest price. And she just wasn't having it. At the end, she just shooed me away. Like, no, it's okay. Just whatever. Just leave. I was like, okay, fine then. So I didn't even pay her the €4 that I was going to pay her out of, out of fairness, just because she did the job over again. But the thing is, I figured, hey, if you're going to treat me like that and you just want nothing to do with me, and you just don't want to accept the fact that, hey, you could have been wrong, and you obviously don't care if you lose the customer, you don't care what happens afterwards, I figured I'd take my money elsewhere, And so I guess a bit of a rant on today's episode, guys. Sorry, I just checked the time, 17 minutes plus already. But what can we draw from this experience? Finding the right craftsmanship, the right people to do the job, isn't always easy, and ultimately the cost always goes up when you have a small job in mind and you get a price for it, and then they mess it up and you might have to pay over again. It's annoying. It's definitely annoying. In this case, I didn't pay over again, but I feel like I've already overpaid the other little jobs that she made me do, plus this in itself for what I asked, 8 to 10 euros. That's already kind of becoming a little steep. But what can I say, guys? This is the end result so far, so let's just take a look at it. She even said, for example, oh, I reinforced this end, I did all this extra stuff that you didn't even pay me for. And I was like, well, doesn't even need it because it's already stitched, so you're just making more work for yourself, lady, and then blaming me for it. But for once, it seems that she understood what I had in mind, so just reinforced here on the sides. And literally these two sewn together, these two straps that were otherwise just flapping about, this way they're nice and solid and strong and, sewn together. And so that's about it, guys. What can I say? The next step is going to be to see if these quick release straps are long enough. Otherwise, I might have to source some other straps and ultimately unstitch these Velcro keepers and switch the straps around and then have them sewn back onto the other straps. I don't know. I haven't tested this out yet so far, but I just wanted to share this kind of this anecdote, I suppose, and and I guess you guys can draw your own conclusions from that. But yeah, it's not always a pleasant experience. With the tailors, for example, in the past, as I mentioned, I've had to go back to her at least 3 times. So again, just time consuming, annoying, but at least she was very, very forthcoming and decided to just fix fix the jobs, for free. In this case, for example, just she was just unhappy. She was just unhappy that she had to do the work over. But hell, if she would have listened the first or the second time around, we wouldn't have had this problem. Maybe, or maybe we would have in the future, because that's the thing. She just decided, oh, I'm not going to accept any more of these jobs anyway. So I figured, okay, time to look for another shoemakers elsewhere. She's definitely not the only one. And this was the first time, basically, I've had to deal with this lady. In the past, with her husband, the actual shoemaker, and his daughter, I've never had any troubles. They've always been very polite with me, and I've never had any issues. They've always done the jobs exactly how I wanted them. So what can we take from this story is just that it sometimes it is quite a bit of hassle to deal with some people that there is inevitably some friction with, and no matter what you try to say. And that's the thing. She basically talked 90% of the time, saying this, that, the other, and kept reiterating how I had asked her to do that the way she had done it initially, for me only to just say, no, I'm sorry, no, that's not the case. It just wasn't going to happen. There's no communication. It's just when people are too proud to admit they're wrong, and obviously she'd just rather shoo me away and have nothing to do with me ever again. And so I figured, you know what? I'm keeping the €4. I'm not gonna give them. I'm definitely not even gonna give them to you. So bye bye and screw you. But if you've actually managed to stick with me through this entire rant about these jobs that I commissioned, I commend your efforts, and I'm hoping that all these components can now come together and get something that is remotely doable for an Alice pack. So if you're interested to see how this looks on an Alice pack, all I can say is see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys.